Hi, this is Terri Mead. Welcome back to my channel. Really, Ray? Peace sign in the back?
Well, I can't reach all the way to give you bunny ears,
Oh.
so that's like the next best thing.
I'm recording this on Friday afternoon. We'll be releasing it on Saturday morning. Ray and I played hooky today and popped up to the city to go to the Tissot exhibit up at the Palace of Legion of Honor. This is the second time in 10 days that I've seen this exhibit, and it was just as good the second time as it was the first. It's only in town till February 9th, so if you want to go, I highly recommend it. And the next one is Frida Kahlo, and are we going to that one, right?
May and June, and yes, you will be taking me to that exhibit. Definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely want to go.
So I've spent the last week struggling with how to talk about what I want to talk about today, because it's a combination of good stuff in terms of time with girlfriends, freedom, and also some bad stuff in terms of angry white men and entitlement and feeling unsafe as a woman. So I'm going to start with the good part because it's all part of the same story. So last Saturday night, I got to spend the evening with my friend Carliza. We planned this event back in October, and our friend Beth was supposed to join us, but she's been so busy working for the judge she's working for. Congratulations, Beth, that she opted to, I think, get some sleep or drink wine at home alone instead of going out with us. No pressure or guilt trip or anything there, Beth. So anyway, so Carliza and I met up at this first wine bar, had a snack and a glass of wine, and then we said, oh, let's go someplace else. And so that we walked up the street and we went to another place. And as we were walking around, I realized I had this sense of freedom that I hadn't felt in over 20 years, since before I got pregnant with Adam, in terms of I had no pull of responsibility. I had no pull of obligation. Zeke and Ray were seeing the movie Frozen 2. How was it, Ray?
It was cute but predictable.
Okay, but
yeah.
It was a fun night out with your dad?
Yeah, and since Disney is my childhood, it was nice.
Well, Disney was my childhood too. So anyway, it felt so good, and I think it was because Ray and Zeke were both keeping each other company and keeping each other entertained that I didn't feel an obligation to be around them, that I felt like I was free to just enjoy my time with Carliza. And I was reminded about how important it is to spend time with my girlfriends, because I don't always make time for my friends, as my friends will tell you. Everything else seems to come between me and them often. So it was really quite a delight as we were walking around San Carlos, and we ended up at the fourth place, and Ray and I had been at this new place for lunch, and there were very few people in it. We walked to the back of the restaurant, which is where they had the bar, and there were a couple of guys sitting on the one side and a couple sitting over here. So we sat with one seat between us and the guys. And so we just kind of sat down and ended up, I knew who the bartender was, and so I talked with him a little bit, and we ordered our drinks, and I think we ordered food, but it wasn't until later. And the guy that was one seat over decided that he wanted to talk to Carliza. Now, mind you, Carliza is gorgeous, both inside and out. She is my dentist and one of my very best friends. So she's smart and very professionally capable. I talk about her story. One of her stories is in my book, Piloting Your Life. And I mean, just an incredibly accomplished woman, and just absolutely delightful. And she's also super nice. And so this guy started talking to her, and then I kind of got involved in the conversation, and then his friends kind of pulled him away, and then we just kept talking. And then I was feeling a little uncomfortable because I knew he was drunk, and so we moved down one bar seat. And I thought, okay, that'll be a hint to him, it'll be a hint to his friends. But it wasn't, because then he started to engage with Carliza, and Carliza, being super, super nice, just continued to talk to him and whatever. But I had such a nice evening just spending the time with Carliza, and the last thing I wanted to do was engage with some middle-aged drunk white guys. I mean, it just wasn't what I wanted to do. And the reason why I point out the middle-aged white guys is you're going to find out in just a second the sense of entitlement and that these guys had, or specifically that this one guy had, about monopolizing us and our time. And when we said no, what his reaction was. So I stepped in and said, hey, you know what, I'm really, really sorry, but, you know, Carliza and I don't get to spend enough time together, and this is a really special time for us to be able to catch up. So if you don't mind, we're just going to go ahead and talk to each other. So then I hear this effing this and effing that, and he was really calling me some pretty nasty names. And I was like, you have got to be kidding. I am in San Carlos, California. I'm at, you know, it's a fairly affluent area, and I was really surprised. And I shouldn't have been surprised, because we are in some politically and socially interesting times where some people who may not have done this or said this before somehow feel like they are entitled to behave this way, and they're entitled to have what they want regardless of whether there is consent for it. And so I am hearing this, and I turn to go engage, and Carliza is basically petting me going, it's okay, it's okay. And I'm like, it's not okay. This kind of behavior is not acceptable. And if we don't stand up to it and we don't call it out, how is it ever going to change? So I decided that, you know, I feel like we are in an unsafe situation. So I go walk up to Moose, the guy behind the bar, and I say, look, here's the situation. Here's what happened. I'm feeling incredibly uncomfortable, and I'm feeling unsafe. And this is the kind of guy who, when we go outside later, he's going to be waiting for us, and I don't know what's going to happen. So he said, okay, I'll go ahead and take care of it. So he must have said something to them along the lines of, finish your drink and get out of here, because he didn't bother us. Now, meanwhile, another gal came in and was taking the 2 seats next to us, and I basically turned to her. She was probably a little bit younger than I was, and just said, hey, just want to let you know, you probably should not engage with that guy. He's drunk, he's belligerent, and just steer clear. And I think she ended up witnessing all of that last interaction after her friend showed up. And so later on, when she and her friend went to leave, she basically said, thank you so much for giving us the heads up. That was really ridiculous and really awful. And so I end up settling down, but the guys ended up leaving. So I was able to kind of breathe a sigh of relief, because we are so taught about our safety as women and to de-escalate situations, and but nothing's going to change unless we have allies with us who are going to help change the behavior and tell them that this is not appropriate and this is not acceptable. So when Carliza and I left, we shut down the place. Nobody else was in there. We both called our car services. I called Lyft, she called Uber. And hers was supposed to be there before mine. Now, mind you, Carliza might be 4'10", 4'11", maybe with heels. She's pretty tiny. She's mighty, but I was not comfortable with having her out. San Carlos is like so many other the peninsula towns where 9 o'clock rolls around and the sidewalks just kind of roll up and everybody goes home. And so there was nobody out there. Moose was still inside, so I felt good about that. And then my car arrived before hers did. So I made sure she went inside. I made sure Moose had eyes on Carliza. And I thought, I can't believe that I'm almost 50. Carliza's about my age too. And I'm still having to worry about these things. It had been a long time since I'd been in a situation where I'd been kind of worried about this. When I'm out with my friends, I am aware of surroundings. I'm aware of, I generally am not afraid, but I'm at least aware of what's going on. And I make sure that my women friends, and even if I've just met them, I try to make sure that everybody is present, accounted for, and gets home safely. So made sure Carliza was taken care of, and then she texted me to let me know when she got home. But I ended up seeing an SNL clip on white man rage, and the changing the words and how words matter when we're seeing things reported, and it's somehow that we women are putting ourselves in situations where we shouldn't be, or we're wearing something we shouldn't be, or we're saying something that we shouldn't be, or we shouldn't be drinking. When really what it comes down to is no matter what we do, we're not the ones who are the perpetrators. We're not the ones who are committing these crimes against women. And so it's really important for not only us women to stand up for each other and look out for each other, but we also need men with us as our allies who are calling out this behavior, who are standing beside us and making sure that these guys know that this kind of behavior is unacceptable. I fear for my second child. I fear for my friends' daughters. I fear for my friends if we're not able to make some changes in this. I mean, and this happened in San Carlos. And it was some middle-aged white guy who seemed to be entitled to, who didn't like the idea of being told no and had a sense of entitlement about monopolizing Carliza's time and not respecting when we said no. All in all, it was a really great evening. I did end up a little bit frustrated with that. Well, actually a lot frustrated, and I was, you know, I was probably ready to come to fisticuffs with somebody, which is probably not the best behavior. Probably not a good role model for my kids, but it wouldn't have been the first.
Like, it's a pretty honest representation that you're, like, ready to throw fists with an a-hole like that.
Well, especially to protect the people that I love and to protect my friends. And, you know, it could have been a complete, like, if that guy had caused a problem for the girl who came, or the gal who came in, who I didn't know, I would have like, do you need help? And I would have actually helped, because this is something that my friends will tell you. I have always been willing to step in order to help my friends in those kinds of situations, and then also help other women. This would not have been the first time that I would have done this. So anyway, I'm going to take a deep breath. I just saw the news about the impeachment and the vote against the witnesses. And it just reminds me of just how much harder we're going to have to work to make sure that this world and the society is safe for women, safe for LGBTQ+, safe for brown people, for black people, and for anyone who is not a privileged white male. But on a happy note, Ray and I, when we were out and about and we had a circuitous route to lunch, it was pretty awful, pretty typical for us, but we ended up in West Portal in San Francisco, right in front of a bookstore. And I got up the courage to go in there and ask them about carrying my book, and I gave my book to somebody, and I'm going to reach back out to them to see if I can do an author event. And it's West Portal Books, so if anybody's nearby, go in and ask for Piloting Your Life. Let's see what we can do. But I did get Erin Morgenstern's new book, The Starless Sea. So her first book was Night Circus, which is one of our very favorite books.
Oh, that is such a good book. Link in description.
Thank you. So Night Circus, I talk about it, I think I talk about I want to live in the night circus in Piloting Your Life, because I think I talked about wanting to run away to the circus. So that's Night fair. Circus is great, and I heard that as a second book, this book is not bad. But Ray and I are voracious readers. What are you reading right now, Ray?
I'm reading The Fountain Head by Ayn Rand, which you recommended to me. Mm-hmm. And it's a solid book so far. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm rereading it so that you and I can talk about it, because it's definitely one of those books you talk about and think about. Well, the next one will be Atlas Shrugged, so we just have to find that. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in the house. Maybe it's in the car. So anyway, I am gonna finish up some wine. Ray and I are making jerk chicken, coleslaw, and fried plantains tonight. Yeah, my tennis pro Jose put in a request after reading the food blogs, and because I'm like, we just need some inspiration. He goes, do something that's jerk or Caribbean. I'm like, okay. So I found some recipes. We've got it marinating, so we're going to cook that up tonight. And then we will blog about it in our Cooking with Ray blog. Link in the description. And I'm also super excited because we are in February. So happy February. And the challenge... Isn't tomorrow February? Yes, but we're recording it Friday. It'll be out Saturday. Time warp. Hashtag One Brave Thing gets started in February, so I got to go write the post for that, make sure that those are all set up. And then I'd like to know, I know I keep asking this, but what one brave thing are you doing every day? Mine was going into the bookstore and asking them to carry it. Okay, this ran a little longer than I really wanted, but thank you for subscribing. Thank you for listening and for watching, and thank you for all of your comments. We love to hear from you. We try to respond back. And remember, until the next episode, let go of perfection, take risks, and above all else, have fun.